Welcome to the DCTV Daily News program out of Dove Creek, Colorado. I'm your host, Kendra Cook. The local and regional news will no doubt continue to feature the Project COVID-19 virus issues and implications on our lives for the near future, and probably into 2021 for some time to come. DCTV will continue its coverage of the local impacts, and occasionally there might be some wider scope stories for what's happening beyond the borders of Colorado. Thank you for watching. DCTV is channel 32.1 or 18.4 off the Abajos. And there is more news out there as well, so expect a few fun stories along with the basic what's happening information along the way. And as I continue to say, it's a privilege to have a county and CSU-operated local TV station, especially in times where communications are becoming more and more restrictive. And I also would like to invite you to come along with me for the ride into 2021. I appreciate your input and viewership. And now let's get on with today's news. It's Monday, December 7th, 2020. DCTV Daily News. Coronavirus infections also seem to be tied to the purse strings, whether it's funding for prevention and health issues or throwing Band-Aids on the halt of normal business. Muddling of the monies in with keeping people as safe from a flu-type virus is where we stand right now. So another Project COVID real story is today in Colorado, the publication 5280 out of Denver. They write about the Colorado special legislative session that happened last week. Coloradans need help, and instead of continuing to wait on federal aid from Congress, state lawmakers took matters into their own hands this past week during a 3-day special session on COVID-19 relief, ordered by Democratic Governor Jared Polis. Special or, quote, extraordinary sessions are rare. The last one was in 2017 to restore the taxing authority of recreational marijuana to special districts. This session, however, focused on 7 areas of relief spanning child care support, struggling small businesses, housing insecurity, broadband internet access, food security, utilities assistance, and public health aid. At the conclusion of the session, 10 bills and around $300 million in spending were passed with bipartisan support. Quote, "This is not the end of the conversation," Polis said in a press conference last Wednesday afternoon. After the session wrapped, he said, quote, "There's more that the federal government needs to do, and yes, there's more that the legislature will be able to talk about when they convene, as they ordinarily do, in January. But you know what? This is going to help a lot of people in small businesses get through the next couple of months," end quote. Now, the bills are on their way to Polis, which he is expected to sign using Lysol and gloves as he's still recovering from his own bout with COVID-19, and his other is also now in the hospital with it. In order to bring immediate relief to Coloradans who are struggling right now, here are the 5 biggest takeaways from the 2020 special legislative session. The restaurant industry. They have been hit especially hard since the onset of the pandemic, with state-mandated restrictions forcing food and drink businesses to close indoor dining and reduce their capacity. House Bill 1004 will allow restaurants, bars, food trucks, and wine restaurants to retain up to $2,000 a month in state sales taxes from November 2020 to February 2021, putting some money back into their pockets. Quote, "For every restaurant above a certain size," said Polis in his Wednesday press conference, "you're talking about $8,000 directly to them. Some of the smaller restaurants, it might be $4,000, $5,000, or $6,000. In addition, House Bill 1005 will give local governments the authority to restrict fees charged by third-party food delivery services like DoorDash and Uber Eats, which can charge restaurants up to 30% per food order during a declared public health emergency like the COVID-19 project. For parents and guardians who have had to make the difficult choice between going to work and staying home with their children, this bill will hopefully bring some much-needed relief. House Bill 1002 creates 2 grant programs totaling $45 million. The first program provides aid for licensed providers in the state, and the second program will give financial assistance to new child care providers. The state unemployment rate reached 11.3% in April. Though it has since dropped to about 6.7%, many out-of-work Coloradans have experienced eviction and housing insecurity throughout the pandemic. The $1,200 that some individuals received this spring via the Federal CARES Act only helped a little. Polis's moratorium on evictions also expired at the end of November, putting many Coloradans at further risk of losing a place to stay. To help, Senate Bill 2 will add $44.5 million to the Housing Development Grant Fund, which helps both renters and landlords. In addition to rent, homeowners and small business owners who are struggling to pay utility bills will get some relief through Senate Bill 3, which will transfer $5 million to the Energy Assistance Fund, meant for, quote, Coloradans who get hit the hardest so they don't lose their light or their heat over the winter, according to Polis. Combating COVID-19 has been expensive for Colorado. While it's still unknown just how much the fight against the virus is costing the state, Polis has tapped into the Controlled Maintenance Trust Fund twice since the spring to transfer money to Colorado's Disaster Emergency Fund. Senate Bill 4 will simply transfer $100 million from the state's general fund to the trust fund, making cash readily available for emergency response expenses associated with COVID-19. Once it's in the trust fund, the governor can move it to the disaster fund as needed. Colorado's eclectic arts and cultural organizations, minority-owned companies, and small businesses have suffered more than most during the pandemic due to critical capacity constraints. And in response to that, Senate Bill 1 will provide a $37 million relief fund for eligible small businesses, restaurants, bars, movie theaters, and fitness and recreational sports centers. An additional $7.5 million will help art, culture, and entertainment organizations, and $4 million will be allocated to relief payments, grants, and loans for minority-owned businesses. The General Assembly plans to revisit these funds when they reconvene on January 13th. Quote, there are good ideas out there that would provide immediate relief, whether or not that's business, personal, or property tax, that the legislature could consider as we continue to figure out how to make sure the small businesses, which are the engine of our economy, survive these next couple of months. That was according to House Speaker-elect Alec Garnett. And now with the weather. Today, Monday, sunny and a high near 51 degrees with calm winds becoming north-northwest around 5 miles an hour in the afternoon. Tonight, clear and a low around 24 degrees. East-northeast winds around 5 miles an hour. And for Tuesday, another nice sunny day with a high near 49 degrees. Those east-northeast winds around 5 miles an hour shift down to calm. And then for Tuesday night, mostly clear and a low around 24 degrees. Again, east winds just around 5 miles an hour. For Wednesday, we're looking at mostly sunny skies again, warm with a high near 48 degrees. East-southeast winds at 5 to 10 miles an hour, becoming south-southwest by the afternoon. And into Wednesday night, we're looking for, again, mostly cloudy skies with a low around 25 degrees. And into Thursday, we're looking for partly sunny with a high near 44 degrees. Thursday night, partly cloudy and a low around 20. And finally, we are looking at some potential for moisture at the end of the week. Not a lot expected for Friday, a slight chance of snow showers after 11 a.m., but with mostly sunny skies and a high just near 35 degrees. Friday night, partly cloudy and a low around 16. And into the weekend, Saturday, mostly sunny and a high near 34, with Saturday night, partly cloudy and a low around 16. And now, back to your news. CBS Local out of Denver reported on the state of impaired driving and law enforcement over the holiday season. And as crazy as this seems, this report is also related to Project COVID-19 and exposure to the coronavirus strain. They write, law enforcement is increasing patrols for impaired drivers across Colorado, starting on Friday. And as of November 1st, there have been 168 traffic deaths in the state involving an impaired driver. That's up 14% from the year before, despite lower traffic volumes. Quote, the holidays should be a memorable time for our community, but not because it marks the loss of a loved one due to an impaired driving crash. That was according to Chief Matthew Packard of Colorado State Patrol. In a statement he wrote, we will be actively looking for people who fail to plan for a sober ride after using drugs or alcohol, end quote. Alcohol use, including excessive drinking, has also increased nationally during the COVID-19 pandemic. The largest increase in excessive drinking has been observed in western states, including Colorado. The average drinks per day has increased by 27%, and binge drinking has increased by 26%. During their, quote, Heat is on enforcement. 81 agencies statewide will increase sobriety checkpoints, saturation patrols, and law enforcement on duty. It will be conducted from December 4th, that was on Friday, to the 14th. In addition to increased enforcement, the Colorado Department of Transportation is teaming up with the ride-sharing service, Lyft, to discourage drunk or impaired driving. Lyft and Uber are two of those type of driving opportunities. The team effort is providing $10 ride credits for the first 200 customers every Thursday in December in cities where fatalities were the highest in 2019. Codes will be available to residents of the following cities on these dates. Thursday the 3rd, it was in Denver. Thursday the 10th, it will be in Colorado Springs. For the 17th, it will be in Thornton. Thursday the 24th on Christmas Eve, again, it will be back in Denver. And 31st of December on New Year's Eve, it will be in Colorado Springs. For additional information, you can visit giftoflyft, that's lyft.com. And a few of the COVID-19 safety guidelines for rideshare services include wearing a face mask, leaving the front seat empty, and staying home if you're sick. Review the full list of Lyft's latest COVID-19 precautions on their site at lyft.com/safety. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention, or the CDC, also has safety information geared towards rideshare service drivers, and you can find that online at the cdc.gov website. The Journal posted the AP report on current Space Force Command Center locations to be determined. Colorado still is in the running, and miraculously, this story hopefully isn't about the threat of a virus, at least not apparently. The city of Albuquerque announced a couple of weeks ago that it is being considered to permanently house the U.S. Space Command, the latest of 11 unified command under the U.S. Department of Defense. The U.S. Air Force narrowed down its final options to Kirtland Air Force Base in Albuquerque, Patrick Air Force Base in Florida, Offutt Air Force Base in Nebraska, Redstone Army Airfield in Alabama, and Port San Antonio in Texas. Its current temporary headquarters at Peterson Air Force Base in Colorado is also a finalist. Assistant Air Force Secretary John Henderson sent a letter to Albuquerque Mayor Tim Keller on the 19th of November, congratulating the city and the state for being designated as a candidate location with 5 others for consideration. The Department of Defense said Albuquerque was one of 31 cities originally considered, and a final decision is expected in January after the department conducts virtual and in-person site surveys. Keller and Democratic Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham submitted a letter of interest in June after a month of the Air Force after they began their search. Quote, our state's strong and growing role in space exploration, space science, and national security related space matters puts it in a strong position to become the home of the new Space Command, Lujan Grisham said in a statement last Thursday. We look forward to working with the Department of Defense in the weeks and months ahead. The new command would bring more than 1,000 new jobs and the potential for billions of dollars in spending and contracts in New Mexico or wherever it lands. Government officials believe Albuquerque stands a fighting chance given the state's extensive military and space-related assets. Think Alamosa or Alamogordo. Though in additional recent coverage of this terrestrial space race designation, Nebraska continues to be in the running. After all, they did host SAC headquarters in the earlier days, and as well as the Space Coast, which is they call a section of Florida, long known for its space-related industries. But it would seem that Colorado might have the advantage. We'll know in January who is selected, and it's something to look forward to for 2021. Thank you for tuning in to the DCTV Daily News program. The news is uploaded to our Facebook page, which is DCTV Daily News, as well as our YouTube channel on the same name. And if you have news or information that you would like to share, contact us by email dcbnnews@gmail.com, or you can call us at the station and leave a message at 970-677-4119. The local channel in Dove Creek is over the air on channel 32.1 or off the Abajos on channel 18.4, also over the air. We're thankful to the CSU Extension Office and the Southwest TV Translator Association for keep doing their part in keeping the TV station and DCTV on air. Again, I'm Kendra Cook. Thank you for watching. Be well and keep thinking.